Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. It's Friday. That means it's time for the Rex and Robbie show. What's up, Rex?
What's going on, Robbie?
Not much.
TGIF, my friend.
TGIF. And also, and I know that you're kind of boycotting baseball, for this
I am.
season, and that's
I
fine.
am.
But my
Unless
Yankees
the
have their
Bills make it
first
to postseason.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
My Yankees have their first spring training game today, so I'm very excited for that. And Auburn has their first game in the March Madness tournament, so I'm excited for that. So that should actually be going on, I think, as we're recording this. But very excited to have some of my favorite sports going on right now.
Yeah, well, St. Peter's obviously with the big upset, which is interesting. St. Peter's is actually in our area, I think.
Really?
So never been a powerhouse. I guess they would be considered mid majors now. So glad to see that they're having some successes. That's the best thing about the tourney is that you get those Cinderella teams that that's why it's kind of cool. It's only one game. It's not 7 or 5 or whatever. So anything can happen in one game, man. And that's the excitement of it. But beyond that, I understand why you'd be excited about the Yankees because your Cowboys can't. It seems like you guys are having some issues, obviously, with people saying, "No, I'll stay." "Yeah, no, I'll go." Denver seems nicer. And needless to say, your Lakers are coming completely unglued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's not even anything else new or fresh to say about the Lakers. It's just a giant disappointment. Cowboys, it's interesting to see the moves being made. And of course, in baseball, they're still making moves. I just got word that they just traded Luke Voigt to San Diego, to the Padres. So the Yankees have been shedding some talent that we'll see what happens. I was actually kind of happy to get rid of Gary Sanchez. He just has kind of been a big bust for us. But you never know what's going to happen. So lots of moves, lots of shaking. And I just saw that after yesterday, that right now, out of I don't know, however many millions or hundreds of thousands of brackets get turned in, only 161 are currently still good to go after yesterday.
That sounds about right, dude. It sounds about right. It is almost an impossible target to hit.
Yes.
You're always going to have those upsets, and the question becomes who's upsetting who, and that's where that variable comes in. It makes it so hard. And then obviously, if you bust, if a few of your games bust early, then you're done. It's almost an impossible task.
Yeah, I've never come close to filling out a bracket complete. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the times you just look and you're like, okay, who's the higher seed? I'll pick them.
Yeah,
and that's what you have.
So many teams. Yeah, exactly. There's so many teams you can't. They're teams you've never heard of, you've never followed. You're like, yeah, well, okay. The tough one is when they're one seed away from each other. Yes. Those are always the challenges. You don't know who the teams are. You're like, oh, I don't know, and then you're literally throwing a dart, and just saying, okay, I'm gonna pick this one. So, but that's part of the fun too, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it is absolutely part of the fun. So speaking of upsets, there was some news and some changes recently that upset some folk, and other people didn't seem to mind. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight for the topic. But I will mention real quick, comment below. You're entered to win a contest. That winner will be announced over on Monday's show, Over the Experience with the Comic Collectibles show with Rex and John. And I'm always there on Monday. They do it with AR Comics on Wednesday night. So comment on this video, anything you want, and you'll be entered to win that contest. And if you participated in the chat on Monday, we're going to be drawing a winner from that pool of people at the end of the show.
Real quick, I found another one of the kick-ass cloth cards. Okay, so an actual piece of the costume worn in the movie is been little swatches have been created and inserted into the card. So that is the prize tonight for whoever the drawing is, for whomever entered the chat on Monday when Robbie was with us on the experience.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to get into this whole Punisher symbol, Punisher logo type thing, right? So the Punisher symbol, well known to many people. There it is, portrayed by Jim Lee, a very famous artist on Punisher. One of my favorite Punisher artists is Steve Dillon, and there he is, of course. The Punisher logo, even though it's changed, a little bit here and there throughout the decades, it has pretty much maintained, exactly what it is. And in the new Punisher book from Marvel, which was written by Jason Aaron with artwork by Jesus Saez, they changed it. They changed the logo a little bit. You can look and you can see that it's still a skull, but it's got some added flair to it, some added design components. And the story reason for this is because now the Punisher, Frank Castle, is part of the Hand. So that's pretty interesting. A lot of people immediately got kind of upset because there are a lot of people that I would say Frank Castle's one of their favorite characters. Frank Castle's never been one of my favorites, but I do like the Punisher. And when I first saw this new logo, I was like, that seems dumb. Now, obviously, a lot of people suspect that the reason why they changed the logo was because it had become adopted by a lot of people. I think police in particular, there's some police officers that like to have that emblem on their cars or put on their guns. I have friends who are in law enforcement that they love the Punisher. Like that's one of their favorite characters. Now, these friends of mine that are in law enforcement that love the Punisher don't go out and just mow down like blocks of criminals and gang members and stuff. I mean, but it is, I don't know, for some reason it is something that some people in that world kind of adhere to, right? And there's been a lot of discussion over the years. I think Jerry Conway made some statements about it, like how it was people shouldn't be using that logo, especially if you're a police officer, especially if you're in the military. And I don't know, because if you actually read Punisher comics, like Punisher has a lot of respect for the military, for police officers. So I understand why they would be attached to that character. And I guess a lot of people think that Punisher symbol represents the idea that they want to go out and just mow people down or whatever. But we've had a lot of interesting discourse over the last few years that has kind of broiled into this. Now, all that aside, story reason why, Frank Castle joining the Hand, when I read issue number 1, it blew me away. I wasn't expecting too much. And this is only because most new Marvel books don't really wow me right now. When one does, like Moon Knight or Chip Zdarsky's work on Daredevil, it really stands out from above the rest. And I liked the Punisher book. It was cool. There is a really good, legitimate reason why Frank Castle is working with the Hand. It worked for me. So Rex, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on all this jumbled stuff?
Well, I think that you're looking at a chicken and egg kind of question. And what I mean by that is I agree. The storyline and the way they incorporated the new logo was well written. All right. So from what I understand, it is representative of a Japanese demon, Oni, and, with the horns and everything else. And at one time, I think it was a bad demon, but now through the ages has converted into somebody that Japanese people invoke to ward off bad luck, if you will. So it's an interesting choice because, in history, it was kind of a bad demon, but then now it's a demon that people invoke to ward off evilness. So
interesting.
So it kind of fits the character of the Punisher. He runs outside the law, breaks the law, is a vigilante, but ultimately, what are his motives? Throughout his history, through comics. So I think Oni was a excellent choice, but the question becomes, would this have been the natural progression of the character if it didn't have its ties to politics? And what I think is interesting is that you're right. For a number of years, law enforcement and the military have incorporated its use, on a smaller level, and it reached enough notice where there was enough controversy, but not so much that I don't know, anybody thought beyond talking heads and that type of thing. Yeah. But then I know that BLM had also incorporated it in 2020 or 2019 or whatever during all those demonstrations. So it became widely used now on, you could say, both sides if you want to look at it that way. But you have to think, was it these issues, these political, the logo or the emblem being used on a political basis, what triggered the change, and then they just wrote a really great story to encompass the change, or was a change going to come irregardless if none of this had happened? I would lean that obviously the political climate probably initiated the change, and they unlike a lot of times when these things happen, when a costume change or a logo change or an emblem change, they handled it really well. Okay, it was well incorporated, well introduced. Punisher, was now with the Hand, and he's an assassin. It just worked really well. But ultimately, I think, of course, the big political climate was what drove it. what drove them to say, hey, we have to change this.
Yeah.
Do I agree or do I not agree? I don't know. I mean, ultimately, Marvel as a publisher is trying to appeal to the widest range of people. Okay. And clearly the emblem and the logo was becoming a divisive kind of element. And that's not something they want. They want, if there's people in law enforcement in the military reading it, they want them to read it. If there are people that are in the BLM and they read it, they want them to read it as well. And if it becomes this kind of divisive factor, then one way or another, you're going to lose one or the other. So I think this is their attempt to try to hold both. Can they? Yeah. Who knows? I who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Now, so there was a Punisher series that had just wrapped up or something, and then there was some Punisher stuff that was announced, and then kind of at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests and all that kind of stuff, those just kind of went off the schedule, right? And so it was almost like Marvel's like, we don't really know what to do in the middle of this right now. It's one of our more popular characters. He's got a loyal fan base. I think we're just going to step aside, right?
Right.
And then, first of all, Jason Aaron's writing this. Jason Aaron has written a very, very good Punisher story before. He did the second volume of Punisher Max. That is absolutely amazing. Steve Dillon did the artwork. It was set in an alternate reality, if you want to call it that way. So it was able to actually play free and loose with a lot of things like Kingpin and Elektra, but there was some really great, just badass Frank Castle moments. There's a moment in that series, Rex, where Frank Castle is in prison and he is in like a full body cast pretty much. And he's in the medical ward of the prison, and these prisoners, they break out, and a bunch of different prisoners from different gangs, and they all get together. They pay off the guard or whatever, and they go in there, and there's the Punisher lying helpless in a body cast, and they're going to go kill him. And then they start psyching themselves out. They're like, this is too easy. This is too easy, man. He knows we're coming. He's ready for this. He's going to kill us. He's going to get us. And they all just slowly back away. And even the Punisher, who's laying there, and his internal narrative's just like, it's over. This is the end. I'll just accept it. Just death is going to take me. But then they psych themselves out because of how much they fear this dude, right? Mm-hmm. So Jason Aaron's capable of understanding that character and delivering that character. In the first issue, he does it exceptionally well. So I think that what happened was they took a break. And then they were like, it's time to bring the Punisher back. Jason's got a really cool idea. And I think what happens is that it was either marketing or it was Jason or editorial. Like somebody figured out this is a hot topic in the comic book world, is this Punisher logo, this emblem, right? If we slightly change it, but do it in a way that still honors the Punisher, we are going to cause dialogue again about it. Because immediately, as soon as it happens, people are like, they changed the Punisher logo, this sucks. Hey, they changed the Punisher logo, this is awesome. And now everybody is aware that the Punisher's coming back. A book that sales had kind of dropped in recent years on that, right? All of a sudden now has a big launch because of the controversy over the emblem, right? The emblem change. We've been in comics for a long time, Rex, you and I. Like, we know it's temporary. We know that he'll be back to regular Frank Castle with that Punisher logo one day at some point in the future. I love how it works in the story. Frank Castle working for the Hand doesn't seem like it would make sense, but spoilers, the Hand, who is known to resurrect people from the dead, has resurrected Frank Castle's wife. And so now, and they also believe that he is some kind of, I don't know, like righteous assassin that's going to cause this demon to like rise or something like that. And they're bringing him, like they mentioned rapists, murderers, child murderers and pedophiles and things like that. They bring him these people and he just cuts off all their heads. He's using swords now. He's learning how to do it. It's an interesting story that friends of mine that are huge Punisher fans and are in the military and or in law enforcement really, really liked this issue, even though they weren't looking forward to it because they sensed a political motivation for the change. And I see a marketing motivation. I see them just going, this is going to cause people to start talking. It's going to cause people like pop culture philosophers to do videos about it. It's going to have articles from Bleeding Cool and CBR, and everybody's going to get on Twitter and have an opinion, and we're going to build up the dialogue again and then try to deliver something that works for all sides. That's what I think it mostly kind of comes from. What do you think, Rex?
Well, I would agree with you that I think it is a marketing decision. All right. And you look at any large corporation, they are motivated by one thing and one thing only, and that's profit. Now, so I agree with you 100%. They made a marketing decision to try and direct the dialogue on this topic. But I think the danger here becomes if you use the logo as a marketing tool, knowing how sensitive, how divisive it is, that you run into a danger. Okay. And what I think that danger is that the really good thing about Punisher was that it was a way to, the stories have been engaging, and you're looking at a character that is very dark. And there have been issues, as you say, that have moved back and forth. But once you bring that conversation back to the forefront and you turn it, you're trying to capitalize off the political nature of it. The danger is that it goes beyond that. And now the fan base is reading the stories and trying to see if there's some political bias there. And then all of a sudden the freedom of how they developed the character in the past is no longer there. So you may not be able to write the best stories, okay? Because all of a sudden, I don't want to offend this group and I don't want to offend this group. And I think the danger here is when you try to make everybody happy, you generally make no one happy, Yeah. And it could make things worse. It could make the fans, the fan base kind of examine each story of every issue looking for some political bias that they perceive is there. And then all of a sudden as a writer and as a creator, your creative freedom gets kind of tunneled in. And this is where I think the danger is, it's not a question of, should they change it? Should they not change it? I think that the way that they changed it was excellent. The storyline, the way they're kind of leading this through, I think it was well done. Okay. But was it necessary? Was it something you got to be careful when you poke that hornet's nest with a stick? You may not get bit, but then again, you may. Okay. Is that nest necessarily full of hornets, or it's not? And you're taking a real chance with that stick. You might get lucky. There are no hornets in there. You might get real unlucky, and there's all the hornets in there. And, you're screaming through the park, looking to get into your car, and hornets are chasing you.
Yeah.
So I think that as a marketing tool, are they going to sell lots of issues? Yes. But long term, what are you doing? I think that's really the danger there. And it's a shame that it's come to this, But I think it also brings up a point of how much, especially these days, comic books are influencing a greater part of society, a greater part of pop culture, if you will, that symbols and emblems are kind of taken and politicized like that, which is unfortunate, which I think is an unfortunate thing. You like to think, I guess it's inevitable to a certain degree. But I think it is a unfortunate thing, because the pure creativity and joy of whatever it is, whether you're a fan or not, all of a sudden that becomes restricted, not necessarily by government, by whatever, but by corporate entities that don't want to offend anyone. Yeah. Don't want to lose that fan base, whatever it may be. But the funny thing is, a fan base like this, especially when it's driven by perceived political bias one way or the other, I think it was, I forget what, it was very old. Maybe it was Julius Caesar. I don't even remember. But how the mob mentality takes on a life of its own, where a single person won't do something, but in a mob of like-minded individuals, they may. And I think, there's a real danger here as to what could long-term happen to the character, if they offend one side or the other, because you at some point are going to offend one side or the other. That is inevitable. If the two sides do not agree, you're going to offend somebody. You can only walk the middle of that line so long before you fall off.
Yeah. And, I think that most of the discourse that's been done over the years involving the Punisher symbol, obviously it's involved some creators and some readers and stuff, but I think for the most part, it's a group of people that argue about things online, don't necessarily go in and buy comics or read them, things like that.
Yes.
It's just that Twitter sphere kind of stuff. So I think most of us just want if we want a Punisher, if you want to do a Punisher book, just give us a good story, And
listen, I yearn for the days of Walter Cronkite. Look at the idiots we have on air now.
Yes, I know.
It's so I feel you. I feel what you're saying. I mean, but I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with this, and I definitely see the pitfalls in it.
Where they take the story, how that story develops, what happens, in the course of the series, because only one issue is out so far, and I really liked it, but it could start falling apart. It could have a really good direction, could be telling a really good 12, 18 issue story where, does anybody truly think that Frank Castle is going to be a hand ninja for the next 20 years or maybe 20 issues? And by the end of it, it's actually part of a plan where he's trying to take out hand ninjas, right? And they're helping him clean up some of these criminal elements right now. But obviously it's a comic book story. It's not it ain't going to be 25 issues of the Hand and Frank Castle just killing people all happy working together. There's obviously something deeper, something else going in there. And to be honest, as far as the story goes, as far as the character goes, the fact that Frank Castle runs around with a big white skull on his chest doesn't make sense to begin with. If the Punisher was real, it would be more like that Dolph Lundgren movie, right? Honestly, just be a dude. He wouldn't be what, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't want you to see him. He's going to, he doesn't care. He just kills people. He's not like Sally in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the newest one, where she's like, I need him to remember me before I kill him. Frank doesn't care if you know who gets you, just that you got.
Yeah, it's like wearing, I am a vigilante on your shirt. That's probably not going to make you a very effective vigilante. He's like, oh yeah, did you see him? Yeah, he was wearing this black shirt with white printing. It says, I am a vigilante. You should be able to slide him down the street.
Now, it does make good action figures, and of course,
it does.
You know that you're going to be getting action figures. You're going to get merchandise of this new Punisher logo, of this new Punisher character.
You begin to also wonder, and here's the danger, I think, is that once that horse is out of the gate, you can twist anything into, okay, so I'll give you an example. So isn't it interesting now that it's taking place in Japan?
Yeah.
Right? So are you doing that to remove the character to try and disinfect the political nature? Because the Japanese don't look, obviously in Japan if the storyline's taking place in Japan, you're more unlikely to trip over some controversial issue, as opposed to Punisher remaining in America, right? So, but I'm not saying that was the case, but I'm saying that there's a danger. You see what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, when you examine if people are disgruntled about the logo change or happy about the logo change, now they're going to drill into the story to try and see if it's going one way or the other. And I don't think there's an intention beyond sales. Obviously, they want to sell more Punisher books, but also, maybe this is going to be easier if we remove him from the United States and put him in Japan.
Yeah,
okay? We're less likely to trip over some controversial issue that's going on, today or tomorrow or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're looking for that intent. So it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying they shouldn't change the logo or they should change the logo. I'm not saying anything like that at all. I'm just looking at kind of it happening and examining what we really think is going to happen. What's going to take place. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think whether it be marketing, editorial, I don't think they really have an idea. You're saying, do we really think that Frank Castle is going to be, spend the next 20 years with the Hand or the next 20 issues? I'm telling you, I don't think they know either.
Yeah, they probably don't, right?
Yeah, I think they're kind of, flying by the seat of their pants, just like you and I are they're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen after this first issue, second issue, third issue, see everybody's reaction, see the sales, obviously.
Yeah.
As you say, we're going to see action figures, see how that goes. And then, if it's going really badly, then they're like, oh, we can't do this. We're going to have to end this Hand thing real fast.
Yeah. Well,
it's killing sales.
I would
Or
like to think, maybe it's naive, but I would like to think that at least hopefully somewhere in the creator editorial line, they have an idea of where they're going. But, the response to issue 1 has been pretty freaking solid.
yeah,
So that also leads you into the danger of them going, oh, they like it, so we're going to double down and stay in it. You kind of like what
yes.
what I think they've done
I
with
was
the
going to say
X-Men,
that.
right? Like with the
I was
X-Men,
going to
like
say that.
Hickman had a plan, beginning, middle, and end. It started, and so editorial and marketing people at Marvel, they're like, hey, they like this, so let's keep doing this. And sometimes it's like the promise. It's us as readers. Sometimes it's not that we like this situation right now necessarily, and we want to stay in it. It's like we love the promise of where this is going to go, right? And so if they
Right.
deliver a story, which I'm anticipating a story of the Hand and Frank trying to manipulate each other, and then it's just going to fall apart. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
who knows where it's going to go? But
I think you bring up an interesting point, because I think that they probably have an idea of where the next several issues are going, but they're also waiting on the results. Okay, and as you say, one issue does not really determine anything, and they're waiting to see the reaction. But beyond just sales, I think they're waiting to see what, because it's already been dragged into that political space. I think the danger becomes they're waiting to see how that reacts. Because, I mean, let's look at worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario. You have a group of people, Punisher fans, that decide, for whatever reason, I don't care which side you're on, let's just say whoever's offended, and they decide to protest, and they're all wearing their Punisher shirts and yelling stuff, and now all of a sudden they're in Disney World doing this.
yeah,
Who wants to be in a situation where imagine this? Now, Disney, obviously, if you're wearing an inappropriate shirt, they can remove you from the park. Now, imagine that these people are protesting, they're all wearing the old Punisher skulls. How are you going to remove all them people for a license that you own? You see the political problem, the PR issue that they would be facing in that instance.
yeah.
So, I think they're trying to be very careful, but yet revive a title that obviously has been very popular. I mean, that's probably, when we do the experience shows, that is probably one of the biggest things that people are requesting. We just happen to be super light. I'm hoping, I put in a request, I'm hoping, Ken Hazel will be able to do some Punisher stuff for us. But, we get a lot of requests for that. And obviously it sells well. That's why we're so light on inventory. And so they're trying to find a way along a minefield, I think. And I certainly understand why. You have a character that has been, that, as you say, has a dedicated fan base, has done well in the past. I mean, it's generated how many movies now? 3 at least.
At least thinking. Four major movies. Four
major.
Three.
That's right.
Three in the TV series, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it lends itself well to this, and obviously translates well. Who would want to lose that? Who would want to lose that property? I mean, you certainly don't. So I think they're very cautiously trying to figure out where this is going, and that's why they don't know. They want to see what the reaction is.
Yeah, but pointing out the idea of the property and what to do with it going forward, and say things like the MCU and stuff like that. That's a whole other side of this, right? Where they're trying to figure out, like, if they want to bring Punisher, everybody wants Daredevil in the MCU. They're doing it, but do they bring Punisher? And how does that work? And so that's a whole headache for somebody.
Yeah, so I think they're cautiously trying to figure out, what's going to be accepted. And it's not their fault that it turned into what it turned into. But what I find interesting is that, there's all this controversy about the Punisher and the skull and whatever, and who it's been adopted for. But what would you do if the same thing happened with the true skull and crossbones, your pirate flag?
Yeah.
What happens then? What if all of a sudden everybody incorporates that? What are you going to do? Get rid of pirates? There are no pirates.
Yeah, right.
You're going to erase pirates from the history of mankind. Well, that becomes dangerous. Now you have another issue that you're dealing with. Is that censorship? Because so it's really a can of worms, and I understand why they're being very cautious about how they're approaching it. But I give them kudos, because the way the way they've introduced it, the way they've incorporated it in the storyline, it all makes sense, you know,
Yes.
and it's well done, and it introduces an already popular character into a new environment with new characters. So if the political divisiveness didn't exist, this is a great story and a great way to start a new storyline for the character. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I give them all the credit in the world. You know,
Absolutely.
They did a real good job doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also more Punisher stuff's on the way. They got some one-shots coming out, Punisher War Journal coming back as a series of one-shots, and there are rumblings in the industry that the man himself, Garth Ennis, will be coming back to do a Punisher series that's not for kids. So I think there's going to be Punisher aplenty for all types of fans in the coming years if Marvel knows what they're doing, right? And then we'll see what they do with them in the movies and things like that, because it's a great character, and there's something about that character, about the tragic loss, and sometimes we go through those days where we just want to, you know, it's the reason why I love that movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas, right?
Yes.
Whereas like we all have those dark fantasies sometimes about one bad day and I'm gonna snap and I'm gonna show everybody, but you know,
it's the
exploring that through fiction is a healthy thing to do, I think. So
it's the everyday man thing, you know, and you know, going back, even though I'm boycotting baseball this season, you can go back to it as a boycott or a example from baseball. You know, after they had the labor issues, then you had McGuire and Sosa chasing the home, you know, the home run, Ruth's home run record, and that was exciting. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch the games. It was fun to watch their at bats, but most of us can't do that. Okay, we can't consistently jack home runs in a major league ballpark. But then came, which there were, you know, multiple things that helped MLB get back in, you know, into the good graces of the fans.
Yeah, and it was Roger Maris. It was Roger Maris's record.
Remember? I'm sorry. Yes, Roger Maris's record, single season record. You're correct. And I think what's interesting is that it also took Cal Ripken Jr.'s breaking of Lou Gehrig's streak.
Yeah.
Okay?
I remember that day. I remember watching that.
It was a combination of those two things, right? So, yeah, it was great. It was great to watch him chase 62, but not everybody can do that, okay? You know, we watch and we're in awe of it, but, you know, not every Major League Baseball player can do that.
Yeah.
But what Ripken did, and I think really solidified MLB's return, was Ripken did something that we can all do. He just showed up to work consistently every single game.
Yeah.
Didn't miss one. And that's something anybody can achieve. So it became the everyday man's thing. And I think that's part of the popularity. You know, Punisher doesn't have any superpowers. You know, he's not some sort of super soldier. He's just one pissed off dude that suffered unimaginable loss.
Yeah.
All right. And that created this character. And I think as you say, we've all had that fantasy. You know, falling down. You know, that was another great one. That's why that was so popular as well as a movie. You know, just one guy just finally got fed up. You know, we all felt like that sitting in the middle of a traffic jam. I know that.
Yeah. Didn't it down all start because he was trying to order breakfast, but it was too late or something like that?
Yes.
Or he wanted a lunch and it was too early.
Yes. Prior to McDonald's extending all day breakfast. That's right. They finally switched that up because you shutting off breakfast at 11 o'clock will send people into a homicidal state.
All right, Rex, another great conversation. We want to know what you think. Let us know in the comments below. And like I said, comment below. You'll enter to win the contest. That winner will be announced on Monday. And if you join us on Monday at the Experience, link in the description below, you can comment there and be entered to win another contest. I'm about to draw the winner right now. And it is... Hey, it's Ron. Good old Ronald.
Ron, our buddy Ron. I don't believe he's ever won anything. Which is ironic because he is so active on the chat boards.
Make sure that when you send it to him that you have it real big. This was free. This was a prize. Ron didn't pay for this.
Yeah, right? So his wife doesn't get mad.
Exactly.
Oh, that's too funny. But
go Frank Castle.
Remind everybody, we have original art on the Experience from 7 to 8 tonight. Amy and I are actually doing a Whatnot segment at 5:16 p.m. Eastern tonight as well.
Nice.
And then Robbie will be back with us on Monday on the Experience, 6 to 8 Eastern. Wednesday, 6 to 8 Eastern, we'll be here with Alec from AR Comics, and then I'll be here again with Robbie on Friday for. I can't wait to see what topic he's got for us. He's getting better and better. Your choice of controversial topics is far better than your choice of sports teams. I want to say that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So
and also a little backhanded, right?
Yeah, I like the backhanded compliment. I think that's nice. I will point out to everybody that we're halfway through March Madness at PCP and Dylan's Horror Show right now. It's kind of like a mini horror fest. Join us tomorrow night at Dylan's Horror Show for Dolls, a great movie by Stuart Gordon. And then on Monday night, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage on PCP Movie Night, which is one of my favorite Dario Argento films, and it's his first film that he directed. We are nearing the end, but we still have some great banging movies to talk about. Rex, thank you for joining the conversation today.
Always my pleasure, Robbie. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Everybody, station.